Good morning and welcome to Putney Vale Cemetery in southwest London. Right, today we are here to visit the final resting place of someone who was basically called the villain of the Titanic. He had all sorts of accusations made against him about him trying to get the ship to go faster, and also the fact that he abandoned women and children, jumped into a lifeboat. Now, I think personally that it was quite harshly done by. But after hearing what I've got to tell you, I would actually like to hear your opinions on whether you think this man was the villain of the case. And that person is Bruce Ismay. Yeah, as I say, Bruce Ismay was vilified, basically, and in later life he paid for it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to spin you around while I have a little walk around this cemetery, and I'll tell you a little bit about the circumstances behind his vilification with the Titanic and the other things that sadly happened to him in his life. So I'll spin you around while I'll tell you a little bit about Bruce Ismay.
Ismay was born in Crosby, Lancashire. He was the son of Thomas Henry Ismay and Margaret Bruce, daughter of shipowner Luke Bruce. Thomas Ismay was a senior partner in Ismay, Imrie and Company and the founder of the White Star Line. The younger Ismay was educated at Elstree School in Harrow, then tutored in France for a year. On 4th of December 1888, Ismay married Julia Florence Schifferlin, daughter of George Richard Schifferlin and Julia Matilda Delaflane of New York, with whom he had 5 children, Margaret, Henry, Thomas, Evelyn and George. In 1891, Ismay returned with his family to the United Kingdom and became a partner in his father's firm, Ismay, Imrie and Company. After the death of his father on the 23rd of November 1899, Bruce Ismay succeeded him as a chairman of the White Star Line. He decided to build 4 ocean liners to surpass the RMS Oceanic built by his father, RMS Celtic, RMS Cedric, RMS Baltic and RMS Adriatic. These vessels were designed more for size and luxury than for speed. In 1902, Ismay oversaw the sale of the White Star Line to J.P. Morgan & Co., which was organising the formation of International Mercantile Marine Company, an Atlantic shipping combine which absorbed several major American and British lines. In 1907, Ismay met Lord Peary of the Harland and Wolff shipyard to discuss White Star's answer to the RMS Lusitania and the RMS Mauretania. Ismay's new type of ship would not be as fast as their competitors, but it would have huge steerage capacity and luxury unparalleled in the history of ocean-going steamships. 3 ships of the Olympic class were planned to be built. They were in order RMS Olympic, RMS Titanic and RMS, later HMHS Britannic. In a move that would become highly controversial during construction of the first 2 Olympic-class liners, Ismay authorised the projected number of lifeboats reduced from 48 to 16, the latter being the minimum allowed by the Board of Trade. Ismay occasionally accompanied his ships on their maiden voyages, and this was the case with the Titanic. During the voyage, Ismay talked with either or possibly both Chief Engineer Joseph Bell or Captain Edward J. Smith about a possible test of speed if time permitted. After the ship collided with an iceberg 400 miles south of the Grand Banks of Newfoundland on the night of 14th of April 1912, it became clear that it would sink long before any rescue ships could arrive. Ismay stepped aboard Collapsible C, which was launched less than 20 minutes before the ship went down. He later testified that as the ship was in her final moments, he turned away, unable to watch. Collapsible C was picked up by the Carpathia about 3 to 4 hours later. After being picked up by the Carpathia, Ismay was led to the cabin belonging to the ship's doctor, Frank McGee. He gave Captain Rostron a message to send to White Star's New York office. Deeply regret, advise you, Titanic sank this morning 15th after collision iceberg, resulting serious lost life, further particulars later, Bruce Ismay. Ismay did not leave McGee's cabin for the entire journey, ate nothing solid, and was kept under the influence of opiates. Another survivor, 17-year-old Jack Thayer, visited Ismay to try to console him despite having just lost his father in the sinking. Ismay was staring straight ahead, shaking like a leaf. Even when I spoke to him, he paid absolutely no attention. I have never seen a man so completely wrecked. He was summoned by and testified before a Senate committee hearing headed by Republican Senator William Alden Smith the day after the arrival of the Carpathia to New York. Ismay was the first witness to testify. A few weeks later, Ismay also testified at a British Board of Trade inquiry chaired by Lord Mersey. After the disaster, Ismay was savaged by both the American and the British press for deserting the ship while women and children were still on board. Some papers called him the coward of the Titanic and suggested that the White Star flag be changed to a yellow liver. Some ran negative cartoons depicting him deserting the ship. Some maintain Ismay followed the women and children first principle, having assisted many women and children himself. Ismay's actions were defended in the official British inquiry, which found Mr. Ismay, after rendering assistance to many passengers, found sea collapsible, the last boat on the starboard side, actually being lowered. No other people were there at the time. There was room for him and he jumped in. Had he not jumped in, he would merely have added one more life, namely his own, to the number of lost that night. Ismay announced during the United States inquiry that all vessels of the International Mercantile Marine Company would be equipped with lifeboats in sufficient numbers for all passengers. Following the inquiry, Ismay and the surviving officers of the ship returned to England aboard RMS Adriatic. During the congressional investigation, some passengers testified that during the voyage they heard Ismay pressuring Captain Smith to increase the speed of the Titanic in order to arrive in New York ahead of schedule and generate some free press about the new liner. The book The White Star Line, An Illustrated History by Paul Loudon Brown states that this was unlikely and that Ismay's record does not support the notion that he had any motive to do so. Ismay was widely vilified in the United States after the sinking of the Titanic due to the hostility shown in the yellow press controlled by William Randolph Hearst, who had fallen out with Ismay. Following the Hearst press depiction of Ismay, every subsequent film about Titanic has depicted Ismay as a villain. In James Cameron's 1997 film, Ismay is often villainized due to the film's inclusion of a scene based on the eyewitness account of first-class passenger Elizabeth Lyons, who after the sinking stated in a deposition that she overheard Ismay urging Captain Smith to arrive in New York ahead of schedule in order to beat the transatlantic crossing time of Titanic's sister RMS Olympic. Loudon Brown, one of several consultants to the Cameron film, has stated that he thought the antagonistic characterization of Ismay was unfair, and he tried to challenge this, but regardless of Loudon Brown's opinions, it was included in the film. Loudon Brown said, "Apart from being told under no circumstances are we prepared to adjust the script, one thing they also said is, this is what the public expect to see." Lord Mersey, who led the 1912 British inquiry into the sinking of the Titanic, concluded that Ismay had helped many other passengers before finding a place for himself on the last lifeboat to leave the starboard side. Though cleared of blame by the official British inquiry, Ismay never recovered from the Titanic disaster. Already emotionally repressed and insecure before his voyage on Titanic, the tragedy sent him into a state of deep depression from which he never truly emerged. After the tragedy, Ismay's wife Florence ensured the subject of Titanic was never again discussed within the family. His granddaughter, historian and author Pauline Matrasso, likened her grandfather to a corpse in his later years. Ismay's health declined in the 1930s following a diagnosis of diabetes, which worsened in early 1936 when the illness resulted in the amputation of his right leg below the knee. He was subsequently largely confined to a wheelchair. On the morning of 14th of October 1937, he collapsed in his bedroom at his residence in Mayfair, London, after suffering a massive stroke, which left him unconscious, blind and mute. 3 days later, on the 17th of October, J. Bruce Ismay died at the age of 74.
Well, that was a sad tale of a life of Bruce Ismay. Now, I don't know what you think, whether you think he should have been vilified or not, I don't know. Personally, I think it's quite harshly treated, especially by filmmakers who decided every single film made about Titanic cast a really poor light on Bruce Ismay. But anyway, his final resting place is just behind the camera. So what I'll do is I'll spin you around, and as usual, we'll go and have a look at it together. Anyway, it's just up here through these hedges. Now, it's designed in 3 stones, as in a ship. You've got the bow, the mast, and the stern. Now, this is the first part of it, this stone here. And it says here, "Behold also the ships which, though they be so great, and are driven of fierce winds, yet are turned about with a very small helm, whithersoever the governor listeth." Now, this second one here is actually the tomb of Bruce Ismay. So we'll see if we can read what it says on here. "To the glory of God and in memory of Bruce Ismay, died October 17th, 1937. His wife, Julia Florence Ismay, died December 31st, 1963. And on this end, you have a ship's compass. And the third stone, which has got my stuff on it at the moment, is a little bench. This is all part of the Bruce Ismay burial site, but he's actually buried in this tomb here. So this is the final burial place, or the final resting place of Bruce Ismay. Well, that was the final resting place of Bruce Ismay. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be happy to hear what you think, whether he should have been vilified or whether he was innocent of all the accusations made against him. But anyway, as I say, that is it from Putney Vale Cemetery in southwest London. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, maybe consider subscribing. And don't forget to ding that bell for any notifications about upcoming videos. So that's it, me Darren. I will see you on the next one, wherever I am. So bye bye for now.